Doing the same thing. Where the hell's St. John?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's online. Yes, sir. We're gonna keep him online. All rise. This is Smith, wow.
Okay. God sakes, for you. Are we ready?
Yes, at this time, I'm gonna call the Naugatuck+Valley Council of Governments to order. Please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we get started, I wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day. Seeing how Mayor O'Leary is not here today, I want to tell you that St. Patrick was really Italian. And that the Pope many years ago sent him to Ireland so he could drive all the snakes out of Ireland. And a few years back, I had a problem in Shelton with snakes, so I had to call on the graces of St. Patrick, and it worked. All right. Go ahead, we'll do the roll call.
Okay, Sheila O'Malley for Mayor, Betty Ansonia.
Here.
She's here.
Here, we're here.
Here,
Right. First Selectman Smith, Beacon Falls.
Here.
First Selectman Sori from Bethlehem.
Here.
Okay. Mayor Caggiano, City of Bristol.
Here.
Mr. Martelli, alternate for Town Treasurer.
He raised his hand.
Yeah, I see him.
Okay. Good morning, thanks. Mr. Salloway, proxy for Rich Deacon, Mayor Derby.
Is here.
First Selectman St. John, Middlebury.
here,
And for Mayor Hess, we have a proxy, Mr. Dembowski.
Here. Yes, friend.
First Selectman Temple, Oxford. Okay. Mayor Kilduff, Plymouth.
Here.
Mayor Chatfield, Prospect said he would not be able to make the meeting. First Select Woman Dragonis Seymour.
Here.
Mayor Loretti
Here.
Shelton. First Selectman Manville Southbury. Okay. First Selectman Ed Moan Thomaston.
Present.
Mayor O'Leary has indicated he won't be able to make it on that proxy. Mr. Rainbow Watertown. Okay. Mayor Don Wolkett
Here.
and First Select Woman Perkinson Woodbury.
Here.
Okay. Chairman, we have a forum for both the MPO and the NVCOG board meeting.
Okay, this time we'll go to public comment. If there's anyone wishing to address the board, you may do so. Please state your name and address for the record. Twice. Okay. Selectman Moan said gone. Item number 2, and I put it on me. That's all right, I got that one. Okay, item number 2 is the CNVMPO meeting. 2A is the approval of the resolution for 2023-09 tip amendments. Move.
Second.
Motion is made second, discussion.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. I have several projects here and go through these as quick as I can. So the first project is the 01703667, the statewide transportation demand management TDM. This is for CT rides for the greater Hartford and New London areas. The whole project cost me 1.6 million. And the next project is the TDM for the southwest area of Connecticut, Danbury, Bridgeport, Greater New Haven, and Waterbury area, again for CT rides. This project cost me 2.5 million. The next project is a NEVI program phase 1 administration. This will be installing electric vehicle infrastructure along alternate fuel corridors up to 11 sites. The project cost will be $1 million. Next project is the Resiliency Improvement Plan and Vulnerability Assessment. This is funded through PROTECT firm under the bipartisan infrastructure law. The total project cost would be $750,000. The next project is replacing, removing, or rehabbing retaining walls in Pod 1A. This is a group of retaining walls around the state. This project cost would be $10.4 million. The next project will be replacing traffic control signals within District 3. None of these signal locations are located in the CNVPO region. The total cost is $5.7 million. Next project is widening I-84 eastbound in Waterbury between exits 17 and 18 to provide an auxiliary lane. This project cost is $19.8 million. And the last project is 84 pavement rehab in Southbury and Middlebury along 7.7 miles roadway on 84. The total project cost would be $53.1 million. So I can see the recommended motions to adopt this resolution. I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions? Pretty much boilerplate, what we do during the course of any year, you know, on behalf of the state, which is required for the MPOs to do that. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, and the only people voting are for the MPO. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Item 2B.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So one of the federal requirements for transportation management areas or urban areas of greater than 200,000 residents is the development and maintenance of a congestion management process. As the CNVMPO has municipalities that are part of the Bridgeport-Stamford urban area, NVCOG staff worked in conjunction with the Connecticut Metropolitan Council of Governments and the Western Connecticut Council of Governments to develop an updated TMA-wide congestion management process. While we as the CNVMPO do not technically have to endorse this as a CMP for us, we believe that because of the work our staff put into it and the benefit that it provides to our towns to be part of it, it is worthwhile to endorse. While we've not had to make a CMP for the Waterbury urban area prior to now, our efforts to become a transportation management area for the Waterbury urban area will require us to develop one here. And so staff has been in the process of doing so.
Okay,
Motion to adopt CNVMPO resolution 2023-09. Second.
motion is made second. Is there any more comment, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carried. Item 2C, air quality conformity determination presentation and public comment.
Yes, so we'll do a brief presentation, and we do want to hold a separate public comment period for air quality conformity. As you're all familiar with, the Connecticut Department of Transportation does air quality modeling for all projects included within the short-term TIP for the 8 MPOs across the state, as well as in the long-range metropolitan transportation plans. In the summer of last year, the 8 MPOs across the state submitted their proposed project listing that will be within the metropolitan transportation plans being updated and adopted in the coming months. And we received air quality modeling conformity determination back in February. We've held a just under 40-day public comment period and have received no comments back on the materials presented by the department. As has been true in similar years, you know, all of the projects that we've proposed and everything that has been included in air quality modeling has shown continuing declines in the emissions of ozone and PM 2.5, which are the non-attainment areas in Connecticut. And so with that, I'll open it up for public comment or any questions if anybody has any.
Anybody for the good of the order? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 2D, the approval of CNVMPO resolution 2023-12, 2023-13, 2023-14.
Yes, and so this can be done as one item, but there are 3 non-attainment or maintenance areas here within the CNVMPO. And so we must adopt individual resolutions for conformity for all 3 of those areas.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. We're doing one motion for all three? Did I hear you say, Rich?
Yeah, as long as as long as you're all okay with that, it is three separate resolutions, but it can be done in just one motion.
Yeah, fine. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the motion you adopted was to adopt all three resolutions. That's all. That's
Okay.
the motion.
Item 2E, Envision 50 presentation and public comment. Rich?
Yes, so it's finally here. We have been working for just about 15 months on the update to the CNVMPO's Metropolitan Transportation Plan. This plan, which we've been calling Envision 50, represents the long-range goals and vision for transportation across the 15-town CNVMPO region, as well as include some data for all 19 NVCOG towns. So this plan, it looks at everything, every mode of transportation within the region, and develops a list of strategies and projects that we would like to see happen over the course of the 28-year timeframe of this document to achieve that goal. From past MTPs, the last one being adopted in April of 2019, the biggest difference is inclusion of a lot more safety in this one. Following the adoption of Vision Zero by this board in September of last year, many of the projects that are included have been updated or have been changed to be safety focused, particularly for vulnerable users, but for all travelers. As has been true in previous MTPs, there's quite a bit of focus in our region on maintaining the system we have, making minor improvements, and then expanding and improving transit services throughout the region. And then, of course, with the Naugatuck River Greenway being a centerpiece of our region's active transportation network, as well as the various other trails throughout the region, we have a aggressive stance on designing and building multi-use trails and active transportation facilities throughout the region. So we've talked about this over the past couple of board meetings. The final draft document has been available for just under 40 days as well. And the couple of comments we've received so far have been either technical corrections, and we thank the Naugatuck Railroad especially for that. And there was a comment received about the potential to use unused transportation right of way for solar energy production. But we want to open today's meeting up for any comments specifically about Envision 50 and the Metropolitan Transportation Plan.
Anybody? Again, stuff that we deal with on and off throughout the course of every day of our lives, whatever the topic may be. So I'm sure everybody's familiar with the majority of this stuff. Okay, hearing no comment, we'll move on to item 2F, the approval of the CNVMPO resolution 2023-15.
Yeah, and so this resolution will adopt Envision 50 as the Metropolitan Transportation Plan for the CNVMPO. I do want to say thank you to all of our NVCOG staff who worked tirelessly on this over, like I said, a period of just about 15 months, as well as to all of the municipal staff who assisted us in putting this together, especially in the project development side of things.
Move resolution 2023-15. Second. Motion is made and second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Item 2G, the approval of the CNVMPO resolution 2023-11.
I'm going to let Mark take this one because I'm sure you're all tired of hearing me talk by now.
Rich, you're on a roll. Don't break the continuity.
Just very quickly, based on federal regulations, MPOs need to self-certify that they're following the federal regulations for the transportation planning process. We typically do the self-certification whenever we update our long-range transportation plan, which we just did today, or the air quality, which we just did today, or updating our transportation improvement program, which will come next year. But it basically certifies that we are following federal regulations and conducting the program the way it's intended to be. And we justify that by doing those documents we just mentioned, the plan, the tip, and the air quality. So I recommend we adopt resolution 11 that we are certifying our transportation planning process.
Move. Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, this takes us to COG administrative item number 3. Approval of the minutes of February 17th.
Motion. Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any comment?
WPCA definitively.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3B, the approval of the Naugatuck+Valley COG resolution 2023-15.
Yeah, very quickly, since NVCOG is a direct recipient of FDA funding, we have to adopt and endorse the Federal Transit Administration's certifications and assurances week to year. We just received the update for 2023. That is before you now. And basically, we need to attach these to any of our capital projects or planning projects that use FDA funds. In reviewing, these are basically the same as last year. They haven't really changed. But there are 22 different certifications, 21 certifications we have to make. And most of them apply to us. There are a few that, involved in rails properties, so we don't have to certify those. But we have looked at these, our attorney has looked at them, and we present this to the board for endorsement that allows Rick to sign off that we do certify that he will be following all the requirements.
Okay, are there any questions?
Move 2023-15.
Second. Motion.
Motion is made and seconded. Discussion, comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
So the
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, motion carries. Okay, this takes us to item 3C, the approval of the agency financial reports and summaries for the period ending 2/28/23. Mike?
Thank you. So this is the financial report for the period ending February 28th, 2023. It did not go out in the agenda packet last week, so my apologies. February is a bit of a short month, so you actually think we had to tie up before I was able to get the numbers out. Nevertheless, this brings us 8 months through the year. Our current net position is about $127,000. We are on target to break even at the end of the year, but our cash balance is 1.25 million, which is healthy. And our general fund has an unrestricted balance of $878,000, which is funds that we can use at our discretion or the board's discretion earlier. And we have deferred revenue of 1.1 million. The main highlights, we're on target for spending all our major funding sources, no unexpected funding cuts. There is some possible anticipation of additional funding, but nothing certain, so nothing to really report right now, just a heads up. As for expense summary, a couple of areas that have been high, legal, as we all know, Town Dam, we are expecting to get reimbursement for roughly about $60,000 right now, basically from September until we get the grant, fingers crossed, April 1st. And then we'll be able to backtrack those ones. We did get prior approval, we're just waiting on authorization for invoice. And then in terms of the other items in the expense summary, IT contracts and printing is high, but those are going to be adjusted in the adjusted budget revisions to account for action.
What would they be adjusted for, Mike?
Well, since I was making the budget adjustments, as I'll get into in my next one of the next reports, I figured I might as well also change some of the expense items to reflect current projections.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Nobody? Okay. We have a motion to accept the report.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
They say
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3D, the review of the FY 2022 audit report. Mike?
Thank you. So FY 22, you guys actually adopted a deficit budget of about $100,000. We came in with a surplus of $30,000. What's also important to note is that there was no findings nor weaknesses in internal control, and we are considered a low risk audit. We ended the year with a cash balance of just under $940,000. General fund unrestricted balance of $878,000. Deferred revenue was a little low, but that's as to expect. It's higher now. And our actual indirect rate that we billed, the grants came in at 124% when we were billing 119%. So we did run a little bit higher on expenses. But that rate is going to be applied in fiscal year 24. So that's kind of how we prove it 2 years behind. One thing to note in the report, in case there was any confusion, so there's a change in the net position of government activities to the negative of $83,000. That is basically just a financial statement adjustment that the auditors make after doing the review. It really comes down to the depreciation expense and how compensated absences are reported for gas. So even though on the books, we were up 30, just for financial statement analysis, it's indicating a decrease. But it's not, we're not decreasing cash, it's just the adjustments that were made for what's accrued in terms of compensated absences and the depreciation. But because, with all our assets and capital equipment, we pay for it up front, so the cash is already out. It's just how it gets trickled down in the upcoming years. The other big thing is they did make a change to the audit report. Really how the lease agreement is stated. The new rule for GASB 87, essentially what they do is they compare the short-term lease cost versus owning our own office space. They attribute an arbitrary percentage to it, what we pay in principal, what we pay in interest. And they indicate whether we would save money or we would spend more money. In this case, we ended up over a 5-year period. I think we ended up saving $32,000, but it's also with the assumption of the fair market value of this current building, or actually, the fair market value of the lease space of the contract. So it's not necessarily apples for apples, but the new rule just wanted to show that comparison, but it really has no material impact on that. Of course, we could always discuss about purchasing something down the road, but that's another conversation for another time.
Done?
Yes.
Okay, move acceptance.
There's no need for a motion.
Yeah, so you could just,
Okay.
it's not, you don't have to actually accept the report. I think it's more like an acknowledgement of.
Right, well, because it's not our audit to accept or to deny, it's the auditor's audit.
Right.
And I think a lot of people get tripped up on this all the time, so.
Valid point, thank you.
Yeah, no, Mr. Chairman, just if I may, I do want to explain to the board, normally the audit committee, the executive committee meets as the audit committee, and this work, as well as the next item Michael is about to take up, would have been addressed in the executive board audit committee setting, and then we would have brought it to the full board. But because of my absence, Michael had some family issues, and there were some scheduling issues with the executive board. We were just unable to get together. But usually we would take this up at that place, have a larger discussion, and then bring any recommendations and reports back to the full board. Thank you.
Okay, item number 3E, the approval of the FY 2023 mid-year budget adjustments. Mike.
Thank you. So I sent out a version last week, and First Select Ramon actually pointed out that I had a little bit of an error in there. So I went through, I made an adjustment, or I made a correction, problem with the formula and how it calculated salaries. To not get too much into the weeds, when I initially made the budget adjustments, the numbers were a little bit different. the error somehow came into play. So then I had to go readjust some items. After I fixed the error, it actually brought me back to what I initially had calculated and broke out. So there will be some variances in what the initial report was that you got last week and the one that I sent out yesterday. That reflected the revisions, but I'll go through. So the main reason that I wanted to do a budget adjustment is because we got some significant increases in budget. Particularly with the IJA funds, CONDOT approved just for this past fiscal year, 1 year, for us to get a portion of the funding. So it equates to about $300,000 just federal. We do have to make a 20% match locally, whereas usually it's just 10%, 10% state, 10% local, but they declined to match. Nevertheless, we also got an addition of another grant for about $35,000. So, you know, just under $350,000, I figured it was a pretty significant and material thing that I thought needed to be reflected in the budget and be adjusted moving forward. I do anticipate, again, a year-end projection of balanced budget. In terms of this, you know, some summary items. We are going to begin reimbursing some of the legal through Kidney Town, but not all of it. So that number is still higher than it was initially planned for, but a whole lot lower than what we actually incurred this far. We do have to make a number of updates and improvements to the existing space. It's going to be expanded over this current fiscal year and the next. In the past years, I've actually budgeted roughly $10,000. Let's say over the past 5 years, we barely touched it, maybe a couple thousand here, there. So we've saved the past, but now it's time that we have to make some serious changes. And this is also going to be reflected in the next presentation of the budget estimates. So in addition to that, advertising and printing, we, as an agency, we've been making it a point to increase our public involvement and awareness initiatives, particularly how it also relates to like DEI. So as a result, we have a significant percentage-wise, not a whole lot of money, but more than it has been. So we could actually start outreaching it. And then there's some other expenses throughout. I have just some minor increases, whether it be office supplies because of the increased level of staff. We had some additions to IT maintenance agreement. Rather than us having to buy a new server, we were able to work a couple things out with our new managed service providers. We were able to work some things out with them, so some costs our monthly costs had increased, but we didn't have to make a huge capital investment of $20,000+. And then, you know, whether it's like the telephone, some utilities, website expenses, those are increased just to reflect our current burn rate on those items and what we expect to spend through the end of the year. I mean, other than that, I don't have much else to report, but I'm open to any and all questions.
Well, is there a list of adjustments that we can look at real quick that reflects what you just said?
From the approved budget to the adjusted budget,
Yeah.
it's gonna. The easiest place to see the impact, if you look at the operating budgets on page 3. If you look into the variance column, that's going to show you the actual change that was made. On the left table, you're going to have, that's all the revenue. So with the increase in the IJA funding and the SMM grant, we did make we had to move some funds. to put staff where they're able to allocate their time to. So as a result, there's just some fluctuations in there, but it all nets out to the increase we anticipated. The increase in, salaries and payroll tax, that's really just a matter of, just adding a couple more staff people, mainly part-timers, but, we were able to add. That's actually a result of the SMM grant. So we were able to hire someone else. So temporary, it's possible to last long-term, depending on how that works. So, but if you go to the indirect side, so the table on the right, that's gonna show you the expenses that were adjusted. So the numbers on the left, that's what was adopted. The numbers on the right are the adjustments. So we have an increase in advertisement of about $5,000. IT equipment, that was increased a little bit just to get additional, like laptop devices and whatnot for other staff that's coming on board and to replace some other things that have been failing. Like computers, minor expenses, but 3 or 4 of them. Office equipment, and then that also kind of goes with repairs and renovations. Office equipment would be like desks and such as we refit the space as we need to. Software, that's just extra software that we've been looking to procure because we got the extra funding. We have a little bit more wiggle room to get some of the things that were a little nicer to have, but that help our transportation, environmental, and brownfield staff do the work more effectively. Some minor increases in insurance, again, printing, that kind of goes with advertising a little bit. Office supplies, utilities.
So overall combined, you're looking at about $148,000 in changes and adjustments to different line items.
Yes, sir.
Everybody see that on page 3 on the right-hand side of the column? Anybody have any questions with respect to those?
Yeah, what are the renovations? What are we planning to do?
So we're actually in the midst of working with the landlord. And the goal is to have the building owners do some of the remodeling, I don't want to say remodeling, but some of the necessary improvements, particularly how it relates to HVAC and whatnot. But we have a lot of, I don't want to say like kind of dead space back there that we're gonna remove.
Yeah, let me just jump in here, for Selectman Temple. I've approached the landlord about improvements that we want made to the physical space that we occupy. Basically, dividers, separation of space to accommodate our staff in the existing space without having to expand footprint. I want them to pay 100% of that cost. We do have some other costs that are optional costs to break up existing space in other places where we would bear some of that cost for dividers and improvements. But I think the amount of money that we're planning to spend on our dime is less than $10,000. I'm looking for the landlord to spend closer to $50,000 or $60,000. Mike did mention HVAC and capital systems. Capital systems are landlord's responsible for under the lease. That's not something we're negotiating, something we're complaining about not being updated and replaced. But it's not something that's our dime in any way, shape, or form for capital systems. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I mean, I think we're all familiar with upgrades in office equipment. That happens every year in every community. But are we like concentrating on IT stuff here or just?
So we have a regular. No, none of it's furniture. Well, very little is furniture. Most of it is actually creating divided spaces within some of the larger spaces. You remember the old meeting room that's way in the back of the building. We had created some smaller partition spaces with doors that you can close. We want to create some more of those. We have some temporary dividers set up at various places in the original rear space. but it doesn't really lend itself to people being able to have phone conversations or online meetings when they can be overheard by other people or other people can be heard on their conversations. So we're trying to create a little more division to accommodate the higher degree of online calls that take place from our office. That's really that, and I want them to upgrade the bathroom and the kitchen in the rear space, but that's at the landlord's cost. It hasn't been touched in about 20 years back there.
By the way, you're looking pretty good, Rick.
Thanks, George. I appreciate that.
They're there stirring the
Okay,
pot.
anybody
you
else
know.
have any other questions?
I said, "So where did that ever come from?"
So you're looking for a motion to approve these transfers and amendments to the Delaware budget.
Yes, sir.
Motion to that effect?
Motion that
Oh.
guys freak out all week.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, seconded. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, this takes us to item 3. F, the approval of the FY 2024 preliminary budget estimates.
Thank you. So, so I just want to kind of start off by saying, so it's preliminary estimates. The approval of this won't really affect what the final budget will be. But just for our bylaws, there is a preliminary budget that has to be approved. If for whatever reason, the budget was able to get approved in May or June, when we come to the board for it, for whatever reason it may be, this would take an effect, but there is the option to also have the previous year's budget take into effect. So I just wanted to be clear on that. That being said, so the fiscal year 2024 preliminary budget estimates actually look really good for us. We have a 34% increase in our planning funds, UPWP. That's our main funding source. It's 80% federal, 10% state, and then 10% local. So that 34% equates to about $333,000 that we are getting in addition per year. So 2024 will be the first year of the 2-year cycle. And those additional funds are the IDRA funds that we got this year that caused me the need to have the budget process. However, the state wasn't funding it then. Now it's in full effect. In addition to that, we are anticipating an increase in RSG funding of about 23%, $113,000. That's we're expecting the formula to be based off a higher number, which is about 1 million more that gets divvied up between the guys. At the MEM grant is additional funding source that we got, and that's going to be $70,000, and that will finish that grant for that year, and then it's possible for the program to go further. Other than that, the rest of the programs, are kind of within the same realm. Some projects are finishing, others are starting, but I think the other big win for us is the increase in RLF activity. Ever since we got this $3.9 million grant, we almost allocated it. We actually just been working on, today is the deadline for a supplemental for us to get even more funds in. We're confident, or hopeful rather, that we're going to get the funding, and it just, some of the work that staff's been doing has been really great, and that's been allowing us to get such great funding loans. Other than that, we do anticipate a 3% increase in dues. It equates to about an average $400 per municipality, some a little lower, some a little higher. But there's actually a 34% increase in the need for the local match for the PL funds. So a 3% increase is actually, I think, really good. There is a 10% increase in the medical insurance, increased benefit costs. That's kind of been standard rate. It's been ranging between 8 and 10%, especially COVID. Again, increase in advertising and printing for our public outreach initiatives, and the office equipment and renovations, just going to be the continuation of that project. For next fiscal year, three major projects, again, the facility improvements. We are gonna be going through another website redesign. There is hope to get some of that funded through other sources, so we don't have to use our local funds or any indirect. And then it's gonna be the formal rollout of the accounting and project management.
So Mike, if I might, Mr. Chairman, so just to sum this up, all we're asking you to do is to adopt the targets based on the best information we have right now. Michael covered most of the main points. You're not committing to anything, and you won't actually adopt the budget until June. Probably not until June, because it's a long legislative session for the state, and we won't know their final number to us until at least then. But this doesn't bind you to anything, but it allows us to start sending notices to the towns. The highlights, as Michael said, we're anticipating a 3% increase in dues, which will allow us to match the work plan for federal funds. The two big things that are hanging out there, the formula for the regional service grant, that's state funding to COGS. We've been working on this for a couple of years. They have not increased it. I think some of that, because if they don't increase it, that will eventually lead to job reduction in positions at the COG. I think part of that might be why John DiCarlo made the decision he made, because of that uncertainty. And then the final piece of it is that we still don't have a commitment for the state for matching IJA project funds or application dollars. And while we have the match in the PL now, we don't have a match for a lot of these federal dollars yet, and that's yet to be seen. So anyway, all we're asking is that you adopt the preliminary budget targets and allow us to send the preliminary dues notices out to the towns, and then we'll bring this back to the executive board and then to the full board for adoption before the beginning of the fiscal year.
Entertain a motion to that effect.
George got it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, motion is approved.
Thank you.
Item number 3G, the approval of the NVCOG resolution 2023-18, endorsement of RPIP grant application for Ansonia Derby Senior Center. Drew?
So Ansonia is applying for funds for their regional senior center, which is to serve other parts of the lower Naugatuck Valley. We are assisting in that application for our regional performance incentive program through OPM. Essentially, part of what we need for this item and the next item is your endorsement of said application. Fairly simple, fairly straightforward. We're almost done with that application. The review period for that is April 1. So any questions on that item?
Does that mean all the Valley residents who belong to the Shelton Senior Center are gonna go to Derby and Ansonia now?
That means they'll have the option to go again.
Let's
I'll
hope.
let Kurt
Let's
Miller
hope,
field any potential questions. But no, I think Shelton has such a robust programming and everything, and such a really great model of a senior center that I think we, Ansonia, Derby, Seymour would be lucky to have that kind of participation that you get in Shelton. I know that's been full to the gills, so.
That's because they have an old mayor.
Because we have
That's right. You need a motion on that?
Yes, Sheila, you need a motion.
We have a great senior center director and her staff.
Get the commercial.
They're doing a knockout job.
Drew, did you say the application's closed April 1?
So it's a rolling application for our PIP grants. It's ongoing. We have this application that will be completed before April 1. That's one of their next review period. The following one is going to be August 1. So if anybody else has any ideas for our PIP grants, feel free to reach out.
We'll be talking.
Okay, perfect. I need work for the summertime, so that's good.
And a quick question, what's the potential of the grant? How much?
So Kurt Miller, who's the finance director from Ansonia, is working on that final number, but I think we're teetering around $1 million is what we're looking for. So.
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
Move. Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3H, the approval of the NVCOG resolution 2023-19. So this is the Drew, same thing?
Yep, same thing, and this is for Lower Valley Emergency Drone Fleet, that this effort will be spearheaded by the fire departments. But looks like we're gonna have participation by the police departments and EMS as well. So working directly with the chiefs and the various departments in the Lower Valley. This application will probably not be filed until August 1 based on some information gaps that we need, but this is again needed as part of the application. Is just your endorsement of that application and the submission thereof.
Entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item 3I is the director's report.
So I'm just gonna give you a quick flyover of legislative items. So our staff is still tracking really dozens of relevant bills. So all of the municipal solid waste bills, which I know are of particular interest to this group, are on hold until the JF deadline. They'll likely to continue to evolve afterwards. So we'll keep you up to date on those as things change, but there are still a lot more questions than answers at this point. Which is why it'll be very important for NVCOG to have your support for the deep grant application that Aaron will be addressing later in today's agenda. The purpose of that grant is to better understand existing conditions in the region and to explore the potential formation, viability, and effectiveness of a regional waste authority. So the more information we have as mandates come down or as we need to make changes to the existing structure of municipal solid waste, the better position we will be to make our own informed decisions as a region and as individual municipalities. So here's just a few other specific bills we're tracking: HB 6781 and other bills addressing affordable housing and tenants' rights. They continue to really draw a lot of attention from the public and both sides of the aisle. HB 6742 outlines some changes to the bonding authorization for commercial rail freight lines, which I know are particular of interest to this northern part of Route 8 here. HB 5989 is regarding changes to the lot SID program and the COG's role in that. A SB 1042 would authorize DECD to provide capacity building grants to brownfield land banks. We're in support of that. SB 1141 is focused on transit-oriented development. There's been a lot of conversation about kind of transit-oriented development mandates and changes to requirements and kind of what passes, what carries more weight in transit-oriented districts. Substitute House Bill 6482 will authorize up to $3 million per year from fiscal year 25 to 29 to support bikeways, greenways, and rec trails. We're in support of that. Senate Bill 935 is the CMERS bill that Mayor O'Leary mentioned last month, which would mandate municipalities to provide police and firefighters with CMERS pensions or pension that is comparable or superior. As mentioned before, there's dozens of bills that we're tracking and still a lot of moving parts. To further that point, we've got Zach McKeown here, who's CCM's legislative lead. He kind of hammered home that point for me before the meeting. If anybody has any questions for Zach, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer. But essentially, we're trying to work with the other COGs through CT-COG with cost and with CCM. It's got to make sure we're rowing together for what's best for our municipalities. So once the JF deadlines pass and the final list of bills moving forward out of committee are clear, we will have a working document that will better summarize kind of the status of all the bills of interest. But if there's anything specific you want us to keep an eye on for you, please email me or call me directly so we can update you in real time if there's any action on bills of personal concern to your municipalities. But we'll be working with the legislators to make sure we get the best outcomes for the region.
You know, I think it would be helpful for all of us if we've got maybe a weekly or bi-weekly update via email on these bills, because they're all way out there. Sure.
And I'd be happy to do that. And I think we've just kind of been waiting for things to slough off because there's so many things that we were all going, I think, concerned about 3 weeks ago that are now no longer alive. So now that, once the JF deadlines pass, I'll commit to doing that to the CEO directly. And you guys can respond and ask me any questions you have. I'm happy to do that.
Drew, I think, at least from my perspective, there's a lot of concern regarding the pension mandate for fire and police, and I don't know that we have a position on that. I know what my position would be, and CCM is here, hi Zach, and Zach could talk about it a little bit perhaps, but that is a matter of major concern for those towns who do not have pensions for those positions. Many of us are have volunteer firemen, and they would be mandating pensions for volunteer firemen as well, as part of the original bill that went down. And in my own town, we went to 457s for our police numerous years ago, as have other communities. And those things are a major concern to compel us to do something that we have decided in our own municipalities to take in different directions for various reasons.
Agreed, and I can tell you that Comptroller Scanlon is kind of all over this issue, and I
He's
think we
looking at
understand.
Marc. And I appreciate that I'm not a Morris town,
Right.
and I'm happy that my forefathers saw otherwise to stay out of that. But in terms of Morris itself, that's something we've been talking about at CCM for a number of years. And even though I'm not a Morris town, I certainly support that they sit down and they modify the Morris system, at least to the extent that they have done for themselves at the state level, which they have refused to do. So.
Yeah, and I think, again, last week I was on a meeting with a lot of municipalities which were participating. I think there was 117 people on the meeting who basically, everything you just said, they said directly to Comptroller Scanlon, and he seemed to be very much so listening.
He does seem to
that.
be receptive, and that's a positive for those who are in the Morris system. But, you know, to the other point, I'm deeply concerned. It would create a vast financial problem for me and my community, and many others who have moved away from the defined benefit pensions to defined contribution.
Okay. moving
Mr.
along.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
through you, just very quickly, welcome back, Rick. Happy to have you back. And I just wanted to thank Drew for all his hard work, especially on the RPIP, but on all of our behalfs. I think you're doing a great job, Drew. Just want to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 4, emergency management, Joanna, for A and B, right? You have both of them?
I do have both of them. John Field is on the call. He's joining us virtually. So first of all, I just wanted to mention that Chesapeake Health District is planning to relocate to a 2-acre parcel of land off Sandbank Road in Chester. They need to do this, and they need to do this because of the pandemic that showed them that the current facilities didn't have accommodations for acting as a health emergency operations center or being a mass distribution center. So they're looking for an additional $1 million for this new facility. Drew is helping Maura Esposito to help explore different funding sources, but I just wanted FYI. Speaking of Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, there is the annual Emergency Management Symposium happening on April 25th at ARIA in our very own Prospect. Regarding the regional emergency planning team, there was recently adopted a Region 5 Public Works Mutual Aid Plan that was activated this week on Tuesday because of the nor'easter. So the town of Goshen had numerous blocked roads, and they requested road clearance task force to assist with debris removal. So that's a great example of how regional agreement is working for our towns. There is a course about creating effective training plans for disaster response that's being held next week, March 22nd and 23rd at the Litchfield County Regional Fire School. Texas A&M Extension Service will be facilitating that training. Regarding the community emergency response teams, so in DEMIS, the Community Preparedness Strategic Planning Grants Unit, there's a new person. If you're looking for submitting your applications for grants, Michael Davis is his name. Training opportunities, CERT Training the Trainer is a free course that's being held March 25th. And the next quarterly statewide Citizen Core Council meeting is on April 20th. I want to yield the floor over to John Field online. John?
Thank you, Joanna. Good morning, everyone. Just real quick, and the first and foremost, the first thing that Joanne talked about was this Public Works ESF3 mutual aid plan that was instituted at the beginning of the week here. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. I cannot express how proud I am of the group, how they got together, and the towns that assisted. I mean, fortunately, this was a very isolated type incident up in Goshen and Norfolk, especially very hard hit. And when I am beyond thankful and just in awe of the fact that as soon as the request came in and I put it out to all the different municipalities and the public works folks, the response was overwhelming, and I really, really appreciate that. And a special thanks, especially, and it worked out, as I said, because it's isolated, and the municipalities that responded were all from your COG, believe it or not. And I cannot thank you guys enough. The town of Thomaston, the town of Watertown, Wolcott, and then there was so many other ones that responded but never got used, but were offered their assistance. And but those three municipalities right there got put to work, and they were unbelievable in accomplishing the mission that needed to be done. So kudos to all three of those municipalities, to your personnel, please, because they were outstanding. Moving on to the next thing, anthrax tabletop exercise. Our ESF 8 folks are doing an anthrax tabletop exercise next Tuesday up at the Litchfield County Regional Fire School. We continue to do some migrant planning. Operation Rapid Welcome. We have developed a plan and are prepared to the best way possible from a state perspective on how we hope to handle any influx of migrants if necessary. Hopefully we won't have to worry about that. We are doing a flood workshop with the Army Corps of Engineers. They will be coming June 21st up at the Kent School in their auditorium. They'll be doing a full day of different topics in regards to flooding and stuff like that. So, FEMA, Demis, there's a whole bunch of people that will be presenting, the National Weather Service. So there's a bunch of people that will be presenting at that particular program on the 21st of June. The other thing is, this just came on my radar just recently. They had their first meeting, I think, yesterday, which I was unable to attend, but I'm hoping that Derby and Ansonia are aware of the fact that, DOT is actually working on the Route 8 highway diversion update. So hopefully they included both those municipalities, because that's where it is. So I just want to put it on the radar out there for everyone to know about, especially Derby and Ansonia. So that's all I have, and thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, item number 5, Naugatuck+Valley COG Planning and Transportation, 5A, the approval of Naugatuck+Valley COG Resolution 2023-21.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, since Naugatuck+Valley COG is the direct recipient for FTA funds, we pass those through to Valley Transit District, and because of that, FTA requires us to have a memorandum of understanding of whose responsibilities and roles in that process are. That's, was executed, I think a couple of years ago. As part of our triennial review, the FTA reviewers asked us to amend our current MOU to just include reference to the CARES Act money and ARPA money that had flowed through BTD into that MOU. So this amendment is just simply adds language that covers the NVCOG provides oversight for the CARES Act and ARPA funding.
Okay,
Second.
motion is made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, this takes us to item 5B, Safe Streets.
Yeah, just a quick debrief on the application that the agency submitted for Safe Streets for All. We had submitted an application for a regional program that included projects in 11 of our towns and plus a couple of regional ones that would affect all 19. We had submitted a request for $20.2 million, plus or minus. Unfortunately, it was ranked recommended, but because of the number of applications that were received, they only funded highly recommended projects, so ours was not selected in this round. We did have a debrief with the US DOT to find out, what were our deficiencies or what they sort of mark us down on. And so we got some good information. The reason we're bringing it up now is the next NOFO for Safe Streets will be at the end of April or middle of April. We plan on resubmitting again, but just, taking into account some of the comments that we did receive, hopefully have a stronger application next time. I think the biggest problem we had is that we tried to do too much, and we need to be a little bit more focused and have projects that are a little bit better aligned with actually the crash history or crash problems that we're trying to address. But again, a very competitive program. They were they received over 232 applications for grants for $2.9 billion, and they only selected 37 for cost of $590 million. So it was very competitive. They only selected like 1 out of 6. Yeah, thanks. So, but we're hoping to be a little bit more competitive next time. So that's basically it.
All right, George, only way you talk about me when I leave, right?
Happy St. Patty's Day, everybody.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
The old Irish goodbye.
Okay, so Mayor already had to leave, so I'll take over the remainder of the agenda here with everyone's permission. We'll move right along now to item number 5C, LOTE SIP. We have an approval for Kevin. I'll let you speak to this. Please, Kevin Ellis.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have a new WhatsApp application in front of us. This is for Chestnut Tree Hill Road in Oxford. This would be a roadway improvement between Route 67 and up to Chestnut Tree Hill Road extension, which is Route 42. This project is a little over a mile long. It'll be a full depth reconstruction, widening the roadway to 26 feet to the current from the current width of 24 feet. This project will require extensive earthwork going up a relatively steep grade, lots of earthwork and potential for retaining walls. As part of this project, a drainage analysis will also be performed. So the anticipated WhatsApp grant is $6.5 million. And as you can see in the screen, the recommended motion is to adopt a resolution. TPAC had the meeting at the beginning of this month, and this project was recommended by TPAC. So I'll take any questions.
Question for Kim. Let's start off. Do I have a motion to the effect of?
So moved.
Okay, I got a couple of them. Who's got what? I'll take.
So moved, done.
We got a motion there. Who seconded?
Done. Second.
Thank you. Okay, any questions for Kevin on this? Lots of projects are a great opportunity, and I know you'll take advantage. You are taking advantage. Good move on your part, George. So we have a motion, a second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Any opposed? Didn't think so. Thank you. Motion approved. Sorry. Okay, item number, LOTE SIP, item number II. Please, Karen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day. As I'm sure you all know, NVCOG maintains a list of on-call engineers. And we renewed that list every 3 years, so it came up for renewal. And we sent out an RFQ a few months ago. We had 18 firms show interest and provide submittals. And we formed the selection committee of 2 NVCOG staff and 3 TTAC committee members. The committee met a couple times, and out of the 18 submittals, we chose the top 9 to be on our on-call list. The list was presented at the recent TPAC meeting, and they recommended our list that we suggested. And I just would like to remind everyone that the list is also open to municipalities, and we kind of added language this year in the RFQ to sort of broaden. In the past, it was sort of centered around lots of projects, but now it's a little broader so that it's not, you could hire firms for other work, not just lots of projects, bridge projects, drainage, pavement rehab, roadway, traffic engineering, things like that.
But the intent was, this process would relieve you from having to go through a quality-based selection if you chose. You know, you could still do whatever you wanted to do in your town, but if you wanted to expedite, you could select somebody from this list. Because we've already gone through the whole proper selection process and, you know, did that qualification-based process, so. Helps maybe relieve some of the.
It does. It takes a little bit of burden off of everybody going out for an RFQ, only then to negotiate at a later point in time. You've already done the RFQ, these people, these firms are now qualified to
Right.
do construction, road, bridge, drainage type construction. Is there anything beyond that that would be qualified for, or is that what you screen for?
Primarily, those are the items, you know,
Okay, gotcha.
transportation type
Just to be
thing,
clear to everybody else.
hydrology, bridge projects. When we did do the reviews of the submittals, we tried to, you know, choose firms that do offer, you know, a variety of skill sets, you know. That was one of the factors in choosing. So,
How long is this list for?
3 years.
3 years.
And we do have an option usually to extend it for like 6 months.
Yeah. I certainly know, I don't know if you guys reviewed the list, but there's a lot of good funds on there. I know there's at least a couple on there that I've done business with in the past, and I won't go into names. But who I've been very comfortable with, so I think that it certainly is a good list.
Good.
So motion to approve.
I'll move done.
Second.
I got a motion and a second, all in favor? Any opposed? Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
St. John.
Yes,
Could I
it is.
ask Karen to send out the list to in particular Middlebury, but there may be others too, that so we can see who's on the list, if that would be possible, Karen?
Sure, but I
It
think
is
it's in the packet.
It is
It's
in the
in
packet.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Same
okay.
as
I must have
me,
not
but-
looked that close. Okay. Thank you so
That's
much.
okay.
It's in the packet that's in front of me and I haven't seen it. Okay. Thank you, Karen.
Well, I mean, if
Is
you
that-
have any questions at all, just, you know, feel free to reach out.
No problem, Karen. I didn't realize okay, I'll check it out. Thank you so much.
I didn't see it in the packet either, but
Yeah, I don't, it's not in the printed packet here.
It isn't?
maybe I missed.
Yeah,
I have mine.
Some got it, some didn't.
All right. Karen will send it out.
Well,
Let's send it out to all the CEOs.
It is in the-
Okay, Karen will send it out to all the CEOs. This way we're certainly eating this. Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Number 6, environmental planning. Christine, household hazardous waste.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm pleased to share that we've finalized our 2023 household hazardous waste collection dates and locations. The first will occur appropriately on Earth Day, April 22nd, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Shepherdson Community Center in Middlebury. The second will take place Saturday, July 22nd, from 8 to 2 at Quaker Farm School in Oxford. And the third will be held on Saturday, September 23rd, from 8 to 2 at Thomaston High School in, of course, Thomaston. So participating towns, we've already been in communication with them and the public works staff about getting their A-frame sign inserts to start advertising. Flyers have been sent out in English and Spanish to be posted around your towns. And we are excited to see you next month on Earth Day.
Very good. Thank you. It's a great program, by the way, and I know a lot of residents who take advantage of it. Often they're calling up asking where the next location is. And certainly when they're closer to home, everybody gets really excited. But good program that we run, it really is. MSWM recycling update, once again, Christine.
Sure. So Ansonia, Seymour, and Woodbury are continuing their sustainable materials management pilot programs along with several other communities throughout the state. Woodbury in particular has seen great success with market increases week over week of diverted food waste. We have brought on a temporary event planner while Katie Schlick is on leave to keep up with the momentum of these educational and community programs we're holding. Her name is Maya Suri Gray. She is a Waterbury native and we're very grateful for her support in Katie's absence. The latest thing we're focusing on right now is planning these town hall style meetings to gather some of the qualitative feedback from residents about the programs. We're hoping to roll out the first of those in mid-April. On a separate note, also pertaining to MSW and recycling, NVCOG has begun to plan for our annual spring composter and rain barrel sale. It's an old favorite. Everybody loves those. Residents will be able to place orders on a website for compost bins, rain barrels, and accessories to help conserve water and divert organics from the waste stream. Right now, we're working with the city of Waterbury to get all the details, which we'll send out to you guys just as soon as we have them. So happy to take any questions.
Through the chair, just one quick one. The participation rates, SMM grants, you said it's increasing. Do we have a percentage at this point of participation?
So we have 3 different programs running right now. The data has not been shared with NVCOG. They may have been shared with the individual municipalities. What I know about Woodbury was week over week increases in tonnage of diverted food waste, which again, I don't have those exact numbers, but that does obviously indicate that more and more people are participating. I have not seen any physical data.
That's fine.
Okay.
Want to
Absolutely.
keep up on this.
100%.
Expound upon what we talked about earlier, because I think it'll be a great opportunity going forward.
Yeah, and one of the things that's been talked about even on the state level now is looking at what Naugatuck has with the liquefaction process. And that's immediate results. And for me, that the long-term result is to get people to source separate. But I think there is some interest now on the state level from Matt Ritter's office in particular that might be looking at some co-location of these bio liquefaction processes at waste to energy plants.
So one thing I've, which is really interesting, I'm glad you bring this up. Part of the reason for these pilot programs is to attract investments and innovators and like people who will come here and cite these things like, liquefaction plant. So one thing I heard that was really cool, Deep held an RFI, just wanting to hear from different industry stakeholders. One thing that a gentleman was talking about that sounded really cool and he wants to locate in Connecticut is using mushrooms and fungus to help decompose food waste, because that's their literal function in nature. So very interesting. There's a lot of things going on. And I think, I hope we will start to see data in the coming months that will continue to attract investors in this stuff. So,
and maybe just
exciting.
to follow to it, my thought is I don't think that that's a bad long-term solution, but I'd be curious to hear some of the early results because in my mind and even in my own public works mind is they didn't really want to go for the grant because they said, oh, it'll never happen. I want to show that there could be progress, maybe over 10, 15, 20 years, but in order to take care of the immediate problem, we need other solutions. So
Absolutely. I'd be happy to share data as soon as I have
I
it.
appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just going back to something you just said, regarding Matt Ritter, it appears in the past few weeks that Matt Ritter seems to be Pete Hess's new best friend.
Love it. Love it. And there's real interest in this. And you just think about I don't want to talk too much about Bristol because we are moving quickly, but we have co-located a quantum bioenergy facility in Stubbington, not in Bristol technically, but literally it's a bird flies. It's a couple hundred yards really, but a mile drive. We have a transfer station in Bristol and we have Covanta. Covanta can't expand and burn more trash. They're about 90% capacity. But if we were able to take 10, 15, 20% of that waste out, they might be able to add other NVCOG towns. We only have 4 NVCOG towns in the BRFOC, and we have a long-term good contract. So those are immediate potential solutions. I'm glad to hear that he followed up there as well, but they set up a call with me last week, which I thought was.
And I really feel like this is a great layup for what Aaron's about to talk about.
Perfect.
Regional waste stuff. So this is perfect.
Anything further from Christine before we move along then?
Through the chair, I just have a quick comment.
Kevin, please.
Calm down though, and my comments.
Calm down.
Yeah, thank you. But in Plymouth, there's a facility available. And that might work. I'm not sure, Mayor, if you know about that place. It's already taking in trash and also bulky waste. And I think they're trying to expand the amount that they could take in, and it's got the train tracks right behind it.
It does. Well, it was an operational facility. I haven't really seen them do much lately. But it is, there's buildings up there. They have the rail spur right behind there. It could be an option for us to explore in this study. Absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to make
It's
that.
quick drive into Waterbury, quick drive into Bristol.
Yeah.
It really is. It's in a perfect location. Definitely something we should look at.
Yeah, I
There
think
is, to that end, there is a train, there is a site already established in Watertown at the old Crossbridge Road area where bulky waste is transported out on train. So, you know, those issues are kind of working themselves very nicely already. The bigger question is really, instead of just taking everything out of the state like we're in the midst of doing now and landfilling it elsewhere, it's where do we go from here? And as far as the state is really not so inclined to incineration any longer. And I think that's the real challenge at hand. To me, incineration always makes sense. That to me is recycling. I'm taking a product that is no longer desirable and I'm turning it into something usable, electricity. But I guess that makes too much sense sometimes with state legislators. But at any rate, all that.
I do want to just take that tone down just a teeny bit, because with Matt Ritter reaching out, I think maybe a better way to say it is that long-term investment in waste to energy and burning is not on the big forefront, but keeping what we have and maybe expanding on it slightly is possible.
Well, listen, I mean, I would
that's
certainly welcome that, okay?
I said-
But all that, be that as it may, we'll see what direction it takes.
through the chair, yeah, through the chair. I sat on that, I sat on the speakers committee, and he definitely wants something to be done. I know he's not trying to be adding any fees to waste. Hopefully that stays true. That was a good information we got after the meeting. He definitely doesn't want to do that, and he's into just finding a quick solution. So I think with what Naugatuck's doing and the other ideas that Christine has here, we should be in good shape without getting any extra fees added on to our tipping fee.
Good news.
Yep, thank you, Tom. Anything further on that matter before we move? All right, moving along. Aaron, please.
So I think this speaks to exactly the discussion that you all are having in the room right now. So as we talked about last month, Connecticut DEP is accepting proposals through a new grant program to help municipalities and regions evaluate interest and assist in expanding existing or creating new regional waste authorities. There's $1.5 million available. So COG staff has drafted a proposal that would fund a study to investigate the region's capacities and needs and how a new or expanded regional waste authority could help municipal efforts. The deadline for the application is March 30th. I think you know, you all sort of just made the sales pitch for why we need a study like this. Drew mentioned it earlier as well. You know, we really think this is an excellent opportunity to get a handle on what's really a complex waste landscape in our region and across the state, and identify ways that we can help prepare for, you know, potential mandates that might be coming down from the state, and at the same time regain some control over rising costs with regional approaches. So today we're asking for the board to support an NVCOG application to the Regional Waste Authority Grant Program, and there's a motion on the screen.
Don't move.
I'll make the motion. St. John here.
Second.
I've always counted the weekends as part of.
Okay, great. We got a motion and a second. I would intuitively ask everyone to support this. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
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 Thank
Are there
you.
any opposed? And if there are, I'll talk to you later. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Is there anything other to come before this? Anything other? Hearing none, we'll call for motion to adjourn.
So happy St. Patrick's.
Favor?
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone.
Thank you.